Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Successful Women's TV show. My name is Galit Ventura Rosen, and I am co-founder of Everyday Women TV. One of my favorite things to do on this show is spotlight women all over the world that are doing amazing things and sharing their area of expertise to help out other women and men be better at what they do. There is no exception to that today. I am so excited to have with me Kelsey Paasch. Welcome.
Thank you.
So when I started asking Kelsey at the beginning how I pronounce her last name, I'm an association girl, and she said, like Posh from the Spice Girls. I'm like, oh, I'll never forget that. So thank you for doing that, because it's not spelled like it. And so I would have totally messed that up. So thank you for setting me up for success.
My age showed one time where I said that to somebody, and she was a younger lady, and she's like, "Who?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting so old."
You're gonna have to come up with another comparison now, because been there, done that, and people go, "I'm sorry, who?" Happens with my youngest all the time. All right, well, let's share a little bit about Kelsey, and then let's jump right into our topic today, which I know I love, from chaos to clarity. Hello, who doesn't want that in their life and in their business? So let's go. Kelsey Paasch is a dynamic business organizer, renowned for her expertise in teaching the skills needed to effectively organize and optimize business operations. And that is the number one thing to get you to the next level, in my opinion. Leveraging her background in operational leadership, Kelsey empowers individuals and organizations to utilize the tools and routines necessary to create their strategies for success. I love that. All right, let's go. When people come to you in chaos, give me a little bit of an example, without mentioning any names or businesses, what that looks like in their business.
So, yes, chaos. So I have a client right now that I actually just onboarded. So he's four weeks into working with me.
Okay.
And he is at that pivotal point where he's got that 5 to 10 employees. And all of a sudden he's like, the way that I've always been leading my business, which has been working in my business, is not working for me anymore. And I am just at wit's end. I don't know what to do, but I know that my sales has more to get than what I'm at right now.
Okay.
And so it's been so fun getting with him to figure out, like, how do we start shifting out of the mindset of being in our business, right? Like doing all the tasks and being the driver, to starting to put the hat of the CEO on. Like, how do we shift our mindset to be like, I need to navigate and set a directional path for myself and my company. And how do I then effectively communicate that downward? So I'm not necessarily the one doing the work, but I am setting the direction.
And I see that so much. And I know you do, coming from that background where people are so in the weeds, right? They're so in the weeds. And sometimes it's us control freaks. And I've gotten so much better at that. Yay. That's why I have a team. But sometimes it's us control freaks. And sometimes it's just not knowing how to get out of it, right? So I love that you talk about in working in your business versus on your business, and what a key it is to make sure you set aside time for both. So give us some tips that you would share with your clients that come to you and they're like, all right, I got to get some clarity because this chaos is just taking a toll on me.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I always do with my clients is, let's understand current state. Part of it is like, I need to get up to speed as quickly as possible as what's going on in their business and the emotions that they have and the feelings and their background of, like, what's their thought process? How do I engage? How do I lead? But it's a moment for them to really stop as well and force themselves to verbalize what is really going on in their business. Like, where did I start? Where am I at now? Why am I frustrated? What are my pain points? And that,
why am I so tired?
I know.
Why am I almost burnt out?
I left my W-2 job to do this.
Why am I waking up in the middle of the night thinking about my to-do list? I'm very blessed not to have all of that because I've done the work. But I know so many businesses that do, and that's why so many businesses don't make it.
Well, and that's a great point. So, like, understanding the chaos and acknowledging, right? Like any program you go to, like, admitting your problem is step one, right? So to your point, like people who are not willing to acknowledge it and think, I'm just going to muscle through this and I'm just going to fight. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work longer. I'm going to demand more from the people that are working for me. It's not going to help them. You have to grow with your business. Like your leadership needs to grow as your business goes. And a lot of times people get into a business because of a skill set, a passion, a talent that they have, but they haven't been able to necessarily get all the resources and training about how do I operationally execute my business. And that's been for me of helping people come in and figure out like, what are some simple tools now that we understand the chaos? How do we start to define what this looks like? What does clarity really look like? And actually starting to just short term, what is like 6 months from now? What would be great for me to have done in 12 months? What would be great? And we just start to put again like outlines of a chapter. We don't need to figure out the details. I just want to know how, like what does this really look like for us? And all the details of how we're going to do that, we'll talk about later. But like, let's just define what success and clarity would really look like for us as an organization. And then
It's so interesting, Kelsey. I want to stop you because you said something so important, and I think I really want to say it again. And I love when people use examples that almost everyone can relate to, right? So you said you don't need to know the chapters, just outline the book. And I think that's so important to say again, because the reason so many people don't write books is the overwhelm of what's in the chapters. Right. Not recognizing that if they started with the outline and then built out the chapters, they could write their own book. So I like that you shared that as one of the ways that those that are listening and watching can go ahead and start having that clarity.
Yeah. I heard one time that like we as individuals, and we do this in our normal lives too, we put self-imposed limitations on our dreams. So we can see this dream, but we always intentionally put these blocks up that essentially keep it at a distance. And the thing that I love to do is say, like, what are the pebble steps that like actually leap us towards that goal? So when we start to put those pebble steps, like that outline of that book, it's not as overwhelming to really reach that goal or that direction. And so that's been so fun for me to help, whether I'm working with an individual client or I do a lot of work with nonprofit organizations as well. And today I had a great meeting and I'm like, we're not going to figure out how we're going to solve these issues. I just want to take a sailor's log from 1 year from now, and I want to know what's all going to be done. And let's just focus on what would be great to have done. And then from there, we'll back it up and start to fill in the pieces of how we get through that.
Yes. Oh, and I love that you're doing it with nonprofits. As someone that's been on gosh knows how many nonprofit boards and is on one now, a lot of times you bring in people from the community that just have a passion, but not everyone knows how to be, let's say, the productive or get that nonprofit to the next level because they don't have that kind of experience. A lot of people that come on the boards are employees or they don't work, so they don't have the leadership skills. So I really love that you're doing that because it's kind of like a domino effect that you're showing them how they can accomplish their goals, how they can be more clear. And then of course it affects the nonprofit in a positive way.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because to your point, people come on because they're so passionate about the cause. But they can't, like, I see this a ton with board members where they come on and they're hesitant to do stuff because they don't want to overstep their bounds.
Agreed.
Because at the end of the day, we don't have clarity on what our roles are. And we're not helping give an assignment or a naming a task or a function of a committee or the role of the board. And so it's great when we get the director and the chair or the CEO or whoever, the key leaders of both sides, and pulling them to a table to say, what does this look like and who's going to be driving this and what's the timeline that we have? Because now we have a really great roadmap that we can now utilize to share across both sides and drive it forward. And then the best part is you then take that to your donors to say, hey, here's our map of our plan, like operationally, how are we going to execute the strategic plan we've developed? Here's operationally how we deliver on it. This is what it looks like, our timeline. And the donors are excited because now they're giving to something that actually is going to put their money to work in the way that it's going to deliver on the cause.
Yes. Yes. All right. So let's go back to the everyday woman, someone that is a solopreneur. That's how most women start.
Yeah.
A solopreneur, they're either doing it as a side job or let's call it a side business because they still have to pay their bills. So they're doing their regular job every day, but then they're finding at least 5, 10, 15, 20 hours a week to start working on their business. What kind of tips can we give them to go from this chaos to clarity?
So writing down 4 to 5 goals max. Like, I don't like to go beyond that because it can be very overwhelming. But like, what are the things that you want to see yourself accomplish in the next year? And write it as fact. Like, next year I have 1 employee. I have increased my sales by X number. It has to be something that's like, yes, I did that, or no, I haven't. So write that down specifically, and then take that goal and just back it up over the next 12 months, because maybe one of our goals is going to be like the second half of the year, and maybe the other ones are going to be more toward the front of the year. But really just figuring out, where is my capacity to be able to deliver on this. We all have a lot of capabilities, right? There's a lot of great things we can do, but if you're trying to balance like starting a new business plus maintaining a current work to support your family, you have to understand what capacity I can actually execute. And that is going to help you be motivated. And as you define that, you can have your, weekly, monthly, whatever your routine is, to check in on it. And that's going to build a momentum of you working toward this and saying like, yes, I've accomplished this. I'm making progress, and this hard work is totally worth it.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Okay, let's go to the next level. Now we've got the woman that's making 6 figures a year. She's been in her business for a few years. She's got a team of maybe 2, 3, either full-time or part-time employees. And she goes, my gosh, I'm really stuck. I've been at this, let's say like low 3 figures. Okay. And how do I get to the high 3 figures? Because there's a big difference between 100,000 and 999,000, right? That's a big number. So how do I finally get to the next level? I double my income. But I feel like I'm just in chaos all the time, and I'm trying to just get what I can done to sustain the income that I'm making now, which is really nice.
Right.
How do I get to that next level?
So I love to always go back to job descriptions. So if you don't have job descriptions yet created, this is a great time too. There's nothing wrong if you haven't done it yet, but define what the job description is. And I love to say, remove yourself from the equation.
Okay.
What does this ideal role look like as somebody who's doing this work? And you define that out. And then you start to say, am I doing all of this? What else am I not doing? What am I doing too much of? And where does that fit maybe an employee 2 or 3 or 4 that I have on my team that they should be doing? Or is this something that I need to hire somebody else to do? So social media is a great thing. If you have a small business and you have all the social media, a lot of times business owners are trying to do it all. And back in the day,
sorry for those of you listening, I'm shaking my head. I know I've got this on iTunes and Spotify, but I am just shaking my head. Why are you doing your own social media if you're not a social media manager? Don't get me wrong. If you're a social media manager and people pay you to do social media, do your social media. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry, Kelsey. Tangent.
No, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful example, because you used to be able to create an ad, you send it to newspaper, and they did all of that for you, right? Back in the day. And now business owners are like, I got to do this all. And that is the work that is consuming time, that you are not leading at the level that you should be. So define the job descriptions allows you to sit back and really start to define, where is my role? Am I playing effectively? Or do I need to like give myself a little kick in the butt and say, play at the right level and trust your staff or your team that you have here?
And the biggest part for me is that a lot of times when different business owners get from, let's say, 5 levels to 6, and then 6 levels to the high 6s, right? Because again, there's a big difference between 100,000 and 999,000. And I understand it's 9 times more. At the end of the day, a lot of times it's the how. So that's where you come in. So let's talk a little bit about that before we wrap up. Tell me a little bit about how you work with your clients, how they can get a hold of you, how they can find you, and the transformation you're really creating for them.
Yeah, so I do stuff virtually and I do stuff locally. So I'm in South Central Wisconsin, but I do have clients I've worked with across the US, and it's been fun to do things virtually, to really learn about people's businesses. I always say I'm not an industry specific coach, and I also am somebody who will come in and help teach you the skills. And I work very hard to work myself out of a job as quickly as possible. While
I love that.
I know. I'm like, it's a weird thing, right? But like, I want to come in and I want to teach you these tools and these resources. And as I build these plans out, all of these are your thoughts and your ideas. I'm just helping pull them out and teaching you the thought process of
Mm,
how do we get them going. And
okay.
then the back part is how do I teach you the routines to sustain it? Because that's the thing. Like you can go pay a consultant or coach and have them come in and like create this beautiful plan. Great. What happens in 6 months, a year from now? Like that's where really the benefit comes and your investment pays off is because you've taken a skill and you're investing it. And I teach different tips and tricks too, depending on where you're at in your business of how do we integrate this into the culture of your company. So it
Okay.
is part of your company. So
So do
you're in,
you work only with the owners, or will you also incorporate the teams or the upper managements, or would you incorporate, like, how do you usually work that way?
yeah. So I work with all different levels
Okay,
depending on
good.
where the need is. You know, whether it's just the core leadership team, the board, the staff, the
Perfect.
whole team. It really
Perfect.
does depend on the individual to drive that.
I love that. Okay. How do people get a hold of you and learn more about working with you?
Yeah, so I'm Kelsey Paasch on social media, so you can follow
Spell
me.
your last name for those people listening.
Yes, it's Paasch, Paasch. There's the two A's in my
It'll
name.
also be in the notes and also in the bio, so it'll be there anyways.
And then contourconsultinggroup.com. That is my website.
Contourconsultinggroup.com. And I'm sure there's a way to contact you through there.
Yes, yes.
Great.
You can go on and connect me there. I love just to meet
And
virtually.
social media, are you under Contour Consulting or Kelsey?
Kelsey Paasch.
Perfect. So all the social media will be Kelsey
Yeah.
Paasch.
Yep.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank
I just feel like this is such a big piece that so many entrepreneurs
you.
don't know how to incorporate. I'm going to say it instead of it's missing. They just don't know how. And
Yeah.
so I feel like your expertise is so dire to just pretty much any business. And that's why I can see how you can work with so many different professions and fields and
Mhm.
corporations and entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. It doesn't feel like you're limited in that.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, my closing thing is you have to invest in your business if you want it
Yeah,
to grow.
yeah.
You have to spend time intentionally planning the growth that you want to have if you want to deliver on the future success.
Agreed. Oh, Kelsey, it was such a pleasure talking to you and seeing you. I know that we get to see each other virtually here and there. So it's just
Yes.
so nice. And it's nice to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being a part and sharing your area of expertise and doing so much good and doing what you love. So thank you.
Thank you for the invite. It's wonderful to be here today.
And everybody, thank you for listening and watching to another episode of the Successful Women's TV show. I appreciate you tuning in every week, and we will see you next time. Bye.